On this episode of Mwah TV, I'm sharing who I recommend should definitely make use of personal branding and personal branding photography in their business. Whilst this is something that I am certainly very passionate about creating photography for, I have found in my experience that it works really well for some businesses and not so well for others. Watch this episode to see where you fit in the mix to help you make the right call when it comes to personal branding and personal branding photography. For lots more inspiration and ideas when it comes to all of your photography needs in your business, you should definitely think about subscribing to Mwah TV with me, your host, Laura Pearman. You can do that right here, right now. If you feel unsure about why your attempts at personal branding haven't really gone very well for you, or even if this is something that you should do with your small business, then this episode is the one for you. Today, I'm addressing 3 key things that you should think about for who personal branding photography works really well for, and I'm also going to give you a quick fire and probably a little bit of a brutal round of all of the reasons you should avoid personal branding photography or personal branding within your marketing. I've proven my approach to personal branding photography with many of my photography clients. There's a good chance that if you're tuning into this episode, you will have seen 1 or 2 or maybe lots of my different client case studies where I show how personal branding has changed and transformed their business. You'll be able to see that a lot of my approach actually differs on a shoot-by-shoot basis as well. If you haven't seen these episodes, then go and take a look at my Meet the Clients playlist, where you can see lots of different types of clients and lots of different types of personal branding photo shoots. This is part 3 of a 3-part special all about personal branding photography. In part 1, I looked at how you go about conveying your personal branding through the right kind of photography. In part 2, I talked about why you should show your personal branding through photography. And today, in part 3, we're looking at who this works really well for and who should probably avoid it. It's a hot yes from me if you are a creative or a maker. If you create or make anything in your business, then I think you should definitely embrace the joy that comes with personal brand and personal branding photography in your business. The reason I think this works so well for us creatives is because buyers and customers are naturally compelled to try and understand how your creative brain conceives the thing that they want to buy from you. They admire the final thing that you've created, and they want to get more emotionally involved with who you are and how you created that thing that they love so much. The reason that they feel so compelled to do this is because the thing that you created made them feel something. Now, you might relate to this if you class yourself as a creative like me, but if you think back to your childhood, can you remember times or lots of times where you were a little bit weird, a little bit like the oddball in the classroom, thinking about things in a slightly different way to everyone else? Well, it's cool now. You've hit the jackpot. You can trade in on your oddball status and really capitalize on that for helping your business to grow. Now, many creatives that I work with actually find it really hard to create storylines about their own creativity. Weird, right? Now, I think that's because a lot of creatives think the way that they do things is just instinctive. It's just come natural to them, and they don't see how it's very different to what your buyer might perceive it as. So you have to do quite a lot of unraveling when you're figuring out the right storyline to pull out from your creativity. There is also a lot of resistance when it comes to revealing or sharing the creative process. Many creatives feel triggered by this, and it brings out a feeling of imposter syndrome when they are asked about their process, And I like to think that that actually comes from being that oddball in the classroom. I think those two are very closely linked in our brain. We worry that if we share the how behind our creative process, then everyone in the world is going to see it, and then they'll copy it because it is just dead easy to copy, and then we will have shot ourselves in the entrepreneurial foot because everyone will be doing it themselves and they won't want to spend money on our creativity. Now, one way to get around this is to shine a light on the why. Why are you being creative in this way? This is where the gold dust really exists for you in personal branding and then in personal branding photography. For example, what if you're a candle maker and actually what really helps get your creative juices flowing is to have death metal on really, really loud in your studio when you're sketching out the ideas for your next candle designs. But actually, you've been afraid to share this with the world because what you sell are candles all about tranquility. They smell of tranquil smells, and the way that they look, maybe the color that the wax is, it all says something about tranquility. So you worry that sharing that your creativity comes from something so crazy and loud will ruin your business. In fact, people will find this weird little nuance about your creative process the most compelling. And let's face it, if there are two candle makers in the world who use this same process, then you guys probably want to do a candle collaboration of some kind, and it's only going to help both of your candle making businesses. And in fact, I am still willing to bet that you could dive a little bit deeper and figure out many ways that you two are very different. It's another hot yes from me. If you are a small business that is experiencing, or you just experienced, a period of rapid growth, there is a common theme within the tech world and with certain inventions where when you set up as a very small startup business and you secure investment or significant funding because what you're doing is particularly innovative, then your small business is going to go through rapid growth. And that means a massive increase in the amount of people that work in your business, and on and on and on. Maybe you set out with a really unique idea as a one-man band, and within a year you had 8 members of staff. And what's more, if your forecasts are right and accurate, you're going to be at a team of 38 members of staff by the end of this year. Taking a personal branding approach and documenting all of this time of rapid change with personal branding photography is really going to help you hit that target of 30 extra members of staff this year, because it's all about how you're documenting the change and your very quick rise. In last week's episode, I mentioned the human predisposition to being intrigued and emotionally compelled by the idea of a quest in a storyline when it comes to understanding how a business works. The more we become emotionally invested in a quest, the more we find it infecting our everyday thoughts. And then guess what? Next time we're down the pub or at a cocktail party, we're bringing this up as an anecdote that has been really important to us and how we see the world. And that can only be good for brand recognition with your business. Now, if you are in this boat, you are probably incredibly busy right now, and I take my hat off that you have the time to even watch this episode. But there is a very good chance that you're struggling with figuring out how this kind of idea could be used in-house in a very efficient way. Fear not, if you want to jump onto a cyber cocktail call with me, it's a very quick and efficient use of 30 minutes, and I'm going to be able to give you some strong recommendations on the way that I can help you, or on the way that you can do this for yourself. So feel free to take a look at the link down in the show notes. And be honest with me right now. Tell me in the comments below if personal branding is something that you are intentionally avoiding. And if that is the case for you, I want you to share with me why. It is another hot yes from me when it comes to personal branding photography. If you class yourself as a traditional business who has to operate in old school ways because that's just the way that your industry works. If you class your business as a boring business, and you'd be surprised how many people you talk to who do describe themselves as running a boring business, then I strongly urge you to think about personal branding as a strategy in your marketing, and then that will lead to really unique personal branding photography, and it's only going to be good from changing your boring business to a little bit more of an interesting business in a boring industry. By this, I mean if you work in very traditional sectors like manufacturing or professional services that have existed for more than 100 years, or even in an industry where the general consensus among you is personal branding photography. Well, there's no way we could do that because of excuse A, excuse B, and especially excuse C. And if there is such a strong resistance as the general consensus in your industry, the reason I am strongly recommend you delve into this a little bit further with your business is because you will be able to get instant traction with being the odd one out, the one that is being disruptive in your world. Hello awards, hello engagement buzz on social media, hello better employee caliber. You see where I'm going. It always pays to zag on the zig, and you can see me talking about that in a little bit more detail on this episode up here. Here's my 10 quick fire big no-nos when it comes to personal branding. So you should not do personal branding and personal branding photography if your plan is to scale it up and then sell it on. Putting yourself at the helm at this stage is really going to create a set of problems when it comes to marketing that business after you've sold on and left. If you know in your heart of hearts that you don't always deliver great work. Bad work means a bad reputation, and all the beautiful personal branding and personal branding photography in the world is not going to get away from your bad work. So focus in on improving quality first. If you know you don't really care about treating people well, I applaud your honesty, but tacking on this type of approach to your personal brand is probably going to bite you on the ass when you're doing the next business or your next set of businesses or whatever it is you plan to do to continue in a career. It's going to affect your professional reputation in a big way. If you really have misgivings about being your true self, whether it's fear, self-confidence, or trying to hide something that happened to you in your past, these can all be really big blocks when it comes to creating a strong and authentic personal brand. If this is you, I recommend you take the time to go and work on yourself in whichever way you need to get through these blocks that you have in your life. And then once you've made your peace with them, you can come back and explore the joy and the power of personal branding. If the online you and the real you are complete strangers. Are you posting an Insta-perfect life every day, but actually living your life like a real, normal, flawed human being? Adopting personal branding as your approach is going to involve a lot of extra work in making these two very different worlds meet. If you're not afraid of the hard work, then definitely go ahead and tackle it. Or you might want to look at why you're feeling pressurized into posting the Insta-perfect blah blah. If your whole career plan is to remain as an employee. Like I said back in part 1, personal brand and personal branding photography is on trend, and unsurprisingly, because we've hit that point of it being so popular, we're seeing large organizations using these types of buzzwords in their training to try and encourage their staff about being aware about representing the brand that they work for. In my opinion, you could very easily take out these buzzwords and replace them with more traditional and acceptable terminology like having a good character, being professional at work, and building your internal organizational reputation. If you are at capacity and booked that way for the next year, well, hugest congratulations to you. High five. Long may it last. If you told me this in a one-to-one scenario, I'd have 2 big questions. If you're at capacity, do you not think it's time for you to put your prices up? And if it's working for you so well right now, why mess with it? If you have no money in your business and you are living on super noodles, pause this episode of YouTube, shut down YouTube, get on the phone and start selling what it is you do. Then when you make sales, deliver what it is that you do to the very best of your ability. Branding, personal branding photography can come for you much later on once you've managed to work yourself out of survival mode. If you're not really sure on where you want to be yet, the best personal branding is personal. If you're going through a bit of an existential crisis right now and you're not 100% sure if trading in on your journey with this existential crisis in a public way is going to be damaging or successful for what it is that you might explore in the future, then get off social media a little bit more and focus on working on you first. If you are not 100% crystal clear on who your customer is, if you cannot tell me in one clear sentence who you serve and why you serve them, then this is going to be a major barrier in us creating the right kind of personal branding photo shoot for you. If you can't do this, then I strongly recommend you invest some time and maybe even a little bit of money on figuring out who your perfect customer is, and then take more time and test that this works for you. Then when you know that it works and you know that you are currently serving those people, it will be time for us to have a chat. Now before you go anywhere, don't forget to subscribe. Mwah.